you many years ago. Okay, so Monica, how can transparency and explainability be achieved without compromising security, intellectual property, or system performance?
Well, I think I want to step back just one quick moment, kind of to piggyback off of what was mentioned with regulation, because it's directly tied to this question of transparency. It's unfortunate, really, that regulation is something that has become so politicized. And I'm going to put on my engineering hat right now, and it really ties also with standards. I mean, what we ultimately are talking about is system quality. And so we have to ask ourselves, what does quality mean? And again, it goes back to this whole point of how do we want it to impact us? How do we want the system to affect us? And so we're talking obviously about AI, and so therefore we're obviously talking about data. And so when we talk about quality data, we're talking about, well, what is the type of data that is going to help us achieve the type of good, positive, ethical outcome? So it starts there. And so then transparency builds from there, because ultimately transparency is about, well, first of all, people want to know whether they're interacting with an AI-enabled system. With a robot like this that is right in front of us and we can see it, you can pretty much assume that, yes, it has some sort of AI in it for it to be able to be doing the behavior it's doing. But in cases where we can't see the system, some people don't know. Some people don't understand yet how this technology works, how many technologies are AI enabled, and so it is important to be aware. We know from the research that when you tell people that AI is, that the system, the tool they're using is AI enabled, they have a different reaction to it, as opposed to, oh, it's a human being on the other side, let's say, of the telephone versus the automated AI-enabled voice. So that matters, because it means it changes our behavior, and therefore it changes the interaction. So that's what's critical here with human-computer interaction. So that's why transparency is related and demands quality data, demands a true human-computer interaction with knowledge and understanding. And then further from that, there's the question of model interpretability. So it goes back to the point I was mentioning earlier of oversight. Well, the question you asked me about oversight, this is where that also falls under this whole umbrella term of transparency, where if you don't understand the system, you don't understand where the data is coming from, and you don't really understand what the ultimate outcome that you want to achieve at the end of the day, then you're not going to be able to use the technology properly. You're not going to be able to answer questions when it does fail. So putting all of that together, then I would say that ultimately transparency probably should, it is the umbrella term here for where all these pillars of ethics fall under, because if we don't have that, then we cannot ensure that we can then be able to explain problems of accountability. So you can't really understand who's at fault if you don't understand the system and who is crewing the system, who is actually using it. Because then you could argue, well, okay, maybe it's the individual who's using it, they don't understand it, so they failed to actually be able to use the system the way it's supposed to be used, and so they misused it, let's say. Or the reverse, we don't understand how that system itself, it's decision-making, logic, processing, and so then we want to put blame on that, but obviously you're not going to put blame to this inanimate object. So it ties all of these questions of what ultimately the quality we want from this relationship with the non-human entity.